coming out. Hope everybody had a great weekend. Certainly want to wish the best of luck to Coach Staley and her team up in Greenville this weekend. Hopefully we can get 2 more wins there and then head to Dallas for the Final Four. So like all Gamecocks, will be cheering hard. Going to be a big weekend around here Friday and Saturday. Got our high school coaches clinic coming up this weekend. Really looking forward to visiting with so many fantastic high school coaches from South Carolina and the surrounding states that are coming. We've sold out our ladies clinic here that's coming up in a couple of weeks, and our numbers are for our coaches clinic are beyond what they were last year as well. So continuing to try and be better and better in everything that we're doing. Should be a great clinic. Looking forward to having longtime NFL special teams coach Joe DeCamillis here for that, along with Arthur Smith, the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons, will be here on Friday as a featured speaker. And then pretty cool, we've got a Legends Roundtable on Saturday morning with Sylvester Croom, who gave me my first full-time job in the SEC back at Mississippi State, David Cutcliffe, obviously legendary coach at Ole Miss and Duke, and then Frank Beamer, pretty good coach in his own right as well at Murray State and Virginia Tech. So looking forward to having those 3 guys here. That it's great to be able to fellowship with so many high school coaches, and it's great for us to be able to learn from the speakers that are coming, learn from the other coaches that are here that are part of the clinic, and should be a lot of fun as well. And then I practice on Saturday morning also. So busy weekend, a lot of good going on. And like we had last Saturday, I know we'll have an awesome group of high school prospects that'll be here this weekend as well. Just finished practice 4 of spring practice, off to a really good start. Really like the way that we're working, like this group, like the energy they have. We had a bunch of prospects and their families that were out here last Saturday for practice, and that's the one thing that all of them commented on was just the energy at practice, the energy at practice, the energy at practice, and that's a testament to our players and the way that they're working. Really proud of them, and it's been 4 good days. Got a lot of work to do, a lot to clean up, but love the effort that they're practicing with and the work ethic of this group. Saturday was our first day in full pads, and then we were in full pads again today as well. So working hard, getting better, a lot of great competition going on out there. Bunch of position battles, so it's been fun to watch, and eager to get out there on Thursday for practice number 5. So with that, any questions? And absolutely going to you with that Goonies shirt on today, man. That is awesome. So fire away.
Appreciate it. Shane, with the carry-on at running back, is this a case of like, hey, got to have you here to see what you can do and get through the spring? I mean, is it likely that he could carry this on and play a lot of running back in the fall?
Yeah, I think, David, it's all the above. It's when I first met with DeCarrion about this, it was look around DeCarrion. Our depth at running back right now is we're not very deep in that running back room, and it's an opportunity for you to go in there and get some reps as well. It was also, too, we're a better football team when you're on the field, and there's a lot of things that you can do as a football player. You can catch, you can throw, you can run as well. Knew it would be somewhat of a seamless transition because he's done a lot of the quarterback stuff and the run game at quarterback also. So it was, hey, let's get you some reps. We need you, and it's an opportunity for you to let's see what you can do, and the more you can do, the better. I use the example with him of Taysom Hill with the New Orleans Saints, a guy that played some quarterback in college, I guess, does a little bit of everything for the Saints as well. So DK is a leader on this team. DK is just a really, really good football player, but having said that, I think his transition's been, I don't want to speak for everybody else, but for me, even better than I anticipated it. I mean, he's very, very natural at it. He's got instincts. He's got vision. He's tough. We showed the team this morning. We were doing a one-on-one pass rush drill where it's the running backs versus the linebackers and one-on-one pass pro. And DK's first 2 reps ever as a running back are like textbook. Everything that Montario Hardesty teaches at the running back position when how to block a blitzing linebacker, DK was awesome. So he's embraced it and ran with it, pardon the pun, and we'll see where it goes. And my conversation with him was, we know what you can do at receiver. We know what you can do at quarterback. We're not going to get away from that, but we got 15 spring practices. Let's see how this running back thing goes, and we can always go back to receiver, but it's also something that we can continue to expand as we go.
Shane, I know every position's up for grabs on this team, but you mentioned some position battles that you're watching. What are some spots that you're especially kind of intrigued about or paying attention to this spring from a battle perspective?
There's a lot. It really is. Quarterback. Obviously, Spencer goes into the spring as the number one, and Luke's done a nice job as the second quarterback. But how does it shake itself out beyond those guys? And does Luke where does Luke, does he maintain that role? Does he continue to push Spencer? Does he not with the other quarterbacks that are in that room with running back? Juju coming into spring is the starting running back by experience, and we got some new faces in that room. The tight end room, it's all new faces. And how does that shake out? What do those guys do? So those guys have been fun to watch. You got 3 transfers that have played a lot of football, and you got 3 true freshmen that are here right now as well at the tight end position. Really 4, I guess, if you count all of those guys that have come in as freshmen, and 3 new starters on the offense, or 3 starters on the offensive line that we got to replace. Marquis Anderson's a true freshman. Watching him, can he help us early? I think every position I'm about to name, Colin, except maybe receiver, and there's great battles going on there as well. Defensive back, we lost Cam Smith and Darius Rush. How does that corner position shake itself out? At linebacker, we lost Sherrod and Brad. Watching these young guys that are in there, Jaron Willis that transferred in, Bam Scott, Debo, Stone, all those guys. Mo Caba's not practicing right now, so it's a great opportunity for them. And then, defensive end, we've lost a lot of guys there. How does that shake itself out? So I wish I could give you a more specific answer, but really I love watching practice and then going in my office and watching the practice tape of all those positions, because there's a lot of new faces that are pushing for opportunities, and I got a lot of guys that are fighting for roles, and it's fun to watch.
What's kind of the biggest difference you've seen in Spencer coming into spring practice this year versus, where he was last year coming in brand new?
I think it's just the confidence that he's playing with. Not that he wasn't confident last year, because last year he was learning a new system, and this year he's learning a new system. There's some carryover, but there's a lot of newness to what we're doing as well. But he's very confident, very comfortable. And to me, it's just the leadership that I've seen from him. Last year he came in at this time, and I've said it before to you guys, he wasn't really trying to impose his will and force his leadership upon anyone. He was trying to earn their respect and earn a role and go from there. Now everybody knows what he can do and what he's done here at Carolina, and he's been much more of it's very clearly his team. It's very clearly his offense, and the leadership that he's showing out there, just being vocal and talking to people. That's the biggest thing that I've noticed from him.
Shannon, I know you probably don't want to share too much details in terms of what's so different about the offense this year in comparison to last year, but at the same time, too, if you don't want to answer that, what are some of the feedback you're getting from some of the players in terms of what they notice that's different, what they're liking, in terms of where they're at right now in comparison to maybe 4 practices in just spring last year?
Yeah, I think it's anytime you go into a year, you want to do a great job of doing what your players do well and figuring out ways to get the ball into the hands of your playmakers on offense. And whether we had maintained the same offensive system or not, I felt like we needed to do a better job of being able to communicate and make it, it was too big of a deal was made out the last 2 years of we're running this pro-style offense that's too hard to learn. That's not the case at all. But I do think we can do a better job of streamlining how we communicate and not have to have Spencer read a wristband with 100 play calls on there as well. If there's a way to communicate better and get plays in, let's do it. So we've looked at that, maybe just trying to minimize some of the terminology. And we've always been a team that's, gone fast and used tempo. So we never want to get away from that. We want to continue to be able to utilize tempo, go fast when we want to go fast, and slow down when we want to slow down. I know Trey Knox said it a few weeks ago. We were going to go fast every play and try and wear the defense out. Well, yeah, we want to have the ability to do that, but we don't do that all the time either. And that was the same thing last year. So I think with anything, Mike, it's just getting the ball to the playmakers and continuing to try and find ways to streamline things to make it easier to communicate. And I think that's the feedback that I've gotten from the players. There's still pro-style elements, and it's still complex in a lot of ways. We got to learn how to get lined up and execute. Here on day 4, that wasn't what we needed it to be. But let's figure out what we're really, really good at and just continue to build on that and get the ball to guys in space where they can just play fast and not have to think as much, but always still be able to run the ball and throw the ball when we need it and be explosive and protect the football, all the things that we talk about.
Talked a lot about Dowell on the recruiting trail, about Dowell in the film room. Now that you've seen Dowell in practice, kind of hands-on with pads, what are your kind of impressions of him and how he's going to be able to help this team going into the fall?
Yeah, still very good. I've been really, really impressed with him and the entire offensive staff in general. Great energy out there on the practice field. I talked about the energy of our players, and that starts with the energy that we as coaches bring out there on the field. If we're walking around dragging and not excited to be there, the players are going to feel the same way. And our coaches are high energy out there on the field, and Dowell's no different. Coaches them hard. He's very demanding, but also makes it fun and very positive and high energy as well. But he's a competitor, and when things don't go the way that he wants them to go, he lets that be known, whether it's to the assistant coaches or the players or whoever it might be. So really been impressed so far, and then Coach White and his guys on defense doing a great job. Also, there's great competition, like Colin asked, at the positions, but also amongst the coaches as well. We're all competitors, and the offense wants to win, the defense wants to win, and on and on and on.
Shane, the last couple of years, you've had guys in the secondary come on, whether it was Darius last year or Foster the year before that. I guess every player is a little different, but what is it about Torian as a coach that allows you guys to maybe develop guys like that so quickly and to get them to a point where they can make an impact that quickly and really in not a lot of time? I guess what is it about his coaching ability, what he does with those guys?
Yeah, great question. He really, really works at it, and everybody works hard. Don't get me wrong, but this is the DB meeting room. So usually when I walk in here, it's like, what's the Russell Crowe movie with the Beautiful Mind? It's like Beautiful Mind when I come in here sometimes with just everything written all over the board. Just the way that he coaches and teaches, like he really, really works at it, and therefore his players really, really work at it. When I talk about it's not, you guys have heard me say it before. This is not an easy program to be a part of. Like, our guys work really, really hard, and it's demanding, and you're held accountable. Well, it's not easy to be a defensive back here. Coach Gray is going to coach you really, 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 really hard, and you're going to have to invest a lot of time into it. But I think all of our guys know that he can make you better. And he's shown that with what he's done with guys here. Carlins Patel came in, and nobody knew who Carlins Patel is, and he's still, I guess, on the roster with the Steelers, and Cam and Darius and Foster and whoever the guys are this year, and then where he's been at other places as well. So when we recruit people, they know that as well, and they understand the way that he can develop them. And I think it's just that. It's his knowledge, Ben. He's coached at a high level in college. He's coached in the NFL. He played at a high level in college. We were at Virginia Tech together, and he was a great player. And then he got drafted and was going to have a great career in the NFL and got hurt, and then turned into coaching. So he's been at every level, and with all the players that he coaches at defensive back, he's been in their shoes, and he's got a great way of relating to them and just getting the very best out of them.
Shane, I know that for a long time before you became a head coach, you were planning and had notebooks and thinking about how you're going to do it. At what point did you decide that when I'm the head coach, I'm going to have a special teams coordinator that's just doing that, not coaching a position? How important is that to you? And what sort of benefits do you think that gives you? I think there's like 8 of the SEC and ACC teams that have that, and the rest don't. But how important is that to you?
Yeah, great question, Gene. Probably very late in my time as preparing to be a head coach that I think I would hire a special teams coordinator. I'd always said if I ever got a chance to be a head coach, I saw my dad do it where he was his own special teams coordinator. I always knew I wanted to be involved with it. And in fact, when I interviewed with Ray Tanner and Chance Miller for this job, and we started talking about potential coaches, I mentioned that I was interested in hiring Pete Limbo to be the special teams coach. And Coach Tanner asked me, he's like, "You're a special teams guy. Why do you need a special teams coordinator?" He asked me in the interview, and I told him if I wouldn't do it unless I felt like I had the opportunity to hire the very best special teams coach in the country, and that's the way I felt about Pete. And I think And if I couldn't hire who I felt like was the very best, I would have just done it myself and followed the model that my dad did. And I'm still very, very, very much involved. I mean, that's kind of my, I don't want to say baby, but I've always been a special teams guy. And I've coached offense, defense, but I love being involved with the special teams aspect of it and don't want to get away from it. But it was probably more, the opportunity to hire a guy like Pete made it somebody that I wanted to bring in here. When I first got hired, Gene, it was because I knew being a first-time head coach, there was going to be so many things that I had to deal with as a head coach that I didn't want to shortchange what we were doing on special teams. And I think what we do with Pete is unique. There's a lot of coaches or a lot of programs that they have a guy that has the special teams title, but he coaches another position, which is code for he coaches the position and they have an analyst on their staff that's probably running the special teams, is what it means. We have a special teams coordinator that doesn't coach another position. So he's able to devote all of his time to special teams. So in practice, when one of the benefits is in practice, when we're not doing a special teams period, we know the kickers aren't down at the practice facility working on their golf swings and then they come back up the hill for punt. Like Pete's with them, like when Joe was in college as a kicker at Middle Tennessee. I'm sure he did that as well. But Pete is coaching them. So you're just as likely to see them working on tackling drills, the punters and the kickers and snappers during practice as anything else. And he's able to really devote time to them. Working on punt fakes or field goal fakes. He can spend time with the kickers doing that during practice. And then he's also a great eyes for me because he's not coaching a position. He can give me his thoughts at the end of each day. Here's what I saw from this group, or here's what I saw from that group. And then he does a great job of being able to point out things that we do in practice and how it relates to special teams. There's a drill, I think you guys have been out there for, we call it perimeter, where it's just wide receivers and DBs working on perimeter blocking, and we throw a ball out to a running back, and he's got to make people miss in space. And Pete loves that drill because it's everything that we do on things that happen on special teams show up in that drill. So to answer your question, being able to kind of see everything at practice, extra attention on the kickers and punters and snappers, recruiting. He's kind of able to recruit his area really, really well, along with the kickers and the punters and the snappers. So I'm so glad I did it, but especially so glad I did it because I've done it where I was the tight ends coach at Georgia, but I was coaching the special teams, and I was the tight ends coach at Oklahoma, and I was coaching half or all of the special teams depending on the year. That was not code for an analyst, did all the coaching. That we didn't break any rules. I was doing it. But a lot of places, they may have an analyst that's really the special teams coordinator. But it was hard for me. I say that it was hard for me to do both. You're trying to balance coaching the tight ends for Lincoln Riley and his offense, but you're also trying to coach the special teams, and it's really tough to be able to do. So, sorry, you got me going on that one, Gene. I like that.
You mentioned you'll have to limit turnovers next year. I know it's early, but how have you seen that improve so far through the first 4 practices, and how do you plan on improving on that throughout the spring?
Yeah, we just continue to emphasize it. I mean, coach it every single rep. It may be something that we're just doing in an individual drill, and it's the wide receivers working by themselves and being able to point out when we have bad ball security, even if it's just a drill without even a defense against us. But it's been pretty good, to answer your question. The first group offensively, I think they've had very few turnovers, if any. I think there was a tip ball today that maybe got intercepted, but there haven't been as many. And it's tough as the head coach because you don't want to see turnovers, but you do because you want your defense to be creating turnovers so we can lead the SEC again in takeaways. But it's something that we're emphasizing. We've always emphasized it. We're just trying to find ways to continue to coach it better, teach it better, and emphasize it over and over and over and over again.
Of your defensive ends who are available to practice, how have they looked? And I guess with Terrell specifically coming off his thing from last year, it seemed like he's kind of full go at this point.
Yeah, he has. Terrell's done a nice job. All those guys are flashing. Tyreek Johnson's an older guy that, he's made a lot of plays out there as well. Desmond's a true freshman that looks the part and just learning what to do. But once he knows what to do, we're really excited about what Desmond is going to be able to bring to the table. Brian Thomas flashes. Donovan Westmoreland's, doing a nice job in there as well. So I'm trying to think who I'm forgetting in there. But all those guys have flashed, and we're trying to get them a lot of reps and continue to see who separates himself from that group.
Any injuries to report since you've put on the pads, and any departures from the team through 4 practices?
Injuries, nothing major. Minor hamstrings, groins, nothing major. Elijah Davis has missed a couple practices with a groin injury, I guess, and Pup Howard tweaked his hamstring a little bit. He's been limited, but knock on wood, nothing major or long term, and hope to have both those guys back soon. And then departures, unless somebody's left the program in the last 20 minutes since I came upstairs, no.
Shane, what priority is it, after turnovers about the run defense? It's been, and there have been injuries and that kind of thing, but in trying to repair it, has maybe a change in scheme ever come up, or is Clayton saying we're doing 4-2-5 and that's it?
Yeah, no, I think we always look at how to be better, and you look at your personnel for sure. And we've always been multiple on defense, and there were times last year where we played with 5 defensive linemen in normal situations. There were times last year where we were more of a 3-down defense, 3-4, 3-3, whatever you want to call it. So we've always had the ability to be multiple, and that is getting our best players on the field. So going back to your question, let's figure out who our best 11 are, figure out how to get them on the field, and then everything is on the table for sure. And a lot of that too is run defense is critical. We're not going to get to where we want to go as a program if we don't stop the run. I think I told you guys before, but we showed the team. I think Clemson won the ACC, Georgia won the SEC, Utah won the Pac-12, and Michigan, I believe, won the Big Ten, and all 4 of those teams were in the top 18 in the nation last year in run defense. So there's 4 of your 5 Power 5 conference champions, and they're all best in the country at stopping the run. So we got to stop the run better than what we did, and that's all 11 too. That's not just D-line and linebackers. That's our defensive backs. We involve our defensive backs in the run defense and run fits, and they got to be in the right place, and they got to make tackles, and a lot of that is plays on the perimeter and things like that as well. So it's a huge emphasis. We're continuing to emphasize it and coach it better. But yeah, everything's on the table to do what we got to do to stop the run.
Shane, I guess maybe outside of Kevin Harris, I guess you guys haven't had a skill position guy at least coming back as a returner with sort of as much excitement, like a guy like Juice who performed the way he did the year before coming back. What to you, I guess, about Juice has improved over the offseason? What do you guys need to see in him to take the next step? I guess, what is it about him that at least made him so special last year and maybe can do so again this year? I
think it's his just hunger and competitive spirit, Ben, to be the very best player that he can be. He just he's just got a strong work ethic and a desire to be great. He really does. He's got an edge about himself, and that allowed him to, for a lot of reasons, but that was one of the main reasons that allowed him to have the year that he had last season. And for us, it's just continue to build on that and look at, what can he be better at, whether it be perimeter blocking, whether it can be run after the catch, ball security, as well. I saw a thing on social media the other night with a picture about how he's leading one of the leaders in the SEC of yards after contact or something like that. Well, that was great, but his ball security on the play was god awful because it was like this, So obviously we got to coach that better as well. But every little thing, he'll be the first to tell you he can improve on all of it. But because of his mentality and his work ethic and his desire to be great, that will continue to push him to where he needs to be and to be a great teammate. Not that he wasn't last year, but he's a guy that we should be in a leadership role for us, and that whole wide receiver group, really excited about Xavier Legette and what he's been able to do this spring and building off last year, and AB and some of these young guys who comes on with them as well. We're excited to see.
I was going to say you were a long snapper in college too. How was your golf game at the time?
Long snapper, but I knew I wanted to get into coaching, and I knew I wanted to get into coaching, so I also played receiver, so I could be doing wide receiver stuff during practice as well. So I would do the snapping, but then I also play receiver because I wanted to learn for sure. My dad was the special teams coach, so he was in charge of the kickers and the punters and the snappers during practice as well. So this was back like people probably get fired nowadays, but back then like he just made the kickers and punters and snappers when they weren't doing anything. They just carried like a bucket around and filled in like all the divots on the practice field with dirt and sand, like they were part of the grounds crew, So we've evolved from there. I tell our guys that all the time. I'm like, y'all got it easy with Pete. Y'all are in there like working on fake punts, and we need to put a bucket in your hand and go fill in some of the divots we got out of here from tearing up the grass. In his early days. I don't need like people coming after me now or coming after him on that one.
A couple of the guys yesterday mentioned Eddie Lewis making some early impressions. Just what has stood out to him integrating into a pretty established receivers room as a transfer?
Yeah, great young man, very focused and driven for sure. I mean, that's another one going back to Colin's question earlier about just position battles. Where does he integrate? He's got punt return ability, and that's one thing we liked about him as well. He's got explosive play ability in the return game, and he's got some quickness, and he's continuing to gain confidence in what we're doing as an offense, and then his abilities as a player as well. He was a confident guy coming in here, but that's a jump going from Memphis to the SEC in South Carolina and playing with Spencer Rattler and this established wide receiver group. So he's getting more and more confident and comfortable, and I just like his twitch, his quickness, his athleticism, speed. He's got a lot of things that are attractive to us as he continues to get better and better and better.
Hey, Coach, you talk so much about these position battles, how there's so many going on, and maybe it's from an outside looking in, football practices seem very hectic. How do you gauge who's winning these position battles with just two eyes?
Yeah, great question. We got a fantastic video crew here led by Joe Lyle that videos literally everything that we do in practice. So it's my two eyes that I'm seeing at practice, but then it's every other coach that's evaluating as well, and watching. And then when we come in off the practice field, I started watching it before I came in here, and then as soon as I walk out here, I'll go back down and either in my office or in the staff rooms with the coaches, and we'll literally watch every single play from practice today. And it's not just the team reps, it's the one-on-one reps, it's the individual periods when you're just working with your position group, and you're evaluating that kind of who's winning. And then it's not just on the practice field either. It's how you're handling yourself outside this building, and can we depend on you, and in the meeting rooms, do you know what to do, and all that as well. So there's a lot that goes into it, but we've got 15 practices and a big body of work to evaluate for sure.
Just saying, filling divots could also be a golf thing from the special teams perspective.
It could. It's probably where it came from, but I said it wasn't so much a divot. Divots did sound very much golfish. It's more like holes, or the cleat tore up the grass or something like that as well.
I want to ask about three guys in particular. Sell and OD are two guys that are being asked to take another step. What have you seen from them? And you mentioned Marquis. What have you seen in terms of his adjustment to the college game, where he might fit on that offensive line? Yeah,
I think Sell and OD are doing great. Two older guys that know it's their time, and they're taking another step. I think that bowl game was awesome for O'Donnell because he gained some confidence in the bowl game against Notre Dame and grew from that, and knows if it's now or never. It's my time, his time. Excuse me. And he's really been good from a leadership standpoint. He's had some things that he was dealing with this week off the field that the old OD probably wouldn't have handled this week as well as, or last week I guess it was, as well as he did. But, Pete gives out like a special teams player of the day, and he was our special teams player of the day on Saturday, last Saturday. And then he's also doing great things at defensive back as well, just gaining confidence. Same thing with Sell as well. Sell obviously played really, really, really good football down the stretch, and we all remember the Clemson game, and he got isolated out there on an island basically the entire game against Clemson. Marcellus did, and made some big-time plays for us that day against those guys and gained confidence from it. So those two guys are really good players that were playing behind good players last season. O'Donnell's done a great job of getting his weight up, getting stronger, and is on a great, upward path as well. And Marquis, he's done a nice job. he and Xavier McLeod, we talked about it in our team meeting this morning, showed some clips of those guys just in one-on-ones, and they're making each other better. You know, true freshman offensive guard or tackle versus true freshman defensive lineman, and really competing and working hard. And I'd say the same thing about Marquis. I'd say about the whole freshman class, like they don't look lost out there. You know, there's been days, like if you guys went out there and watched the entire practice, you wouldn't see all these freshmen and they don't know what to do and they look completely lost and physically overmatched. Those guys don't. They're doing a nice job and they're getting a lot of reps, a lot of opportunities and making themselves better because of it.
Shane, with your recent appearance on Bussin' with the Boys.
Thought we'd get through it I thought we'd get through this thing without that question.
Well, I wasn't going to ask you exactly that part of it, unless there's a media member you'd like to fight. But anyway, what I was going to ask you is one thing that you did bring up, though, was about the social media interactions and some of the things that you guys have done over here, basically just showing behind-the-scenes stuff. And it obviously wasn't like that with the previous head coach and the coaching staff. I bring that up because how do you balance that while also understanding, you know, that guard that maybe you want to keep up a little bit? I mean, you know, put yourself out there a little vulnerable, knowing that it can't help with recruiting, but obviously it can turn quickly if things turn south.
No, it's definitely a fine line. It's a great question. I mean, we want to showcase this program and all the people in this program and all the great things that are going on here at Carolina within our football program, but there's also a fine line of too much where we don't want everything coming out of this building and our guys having our guys lose focus on what's important. Like none of that stuff matters, none of the energy that's being created. Nobody cares what we're doing if we're not winning football games. And let's not forget about what we're here to do, and that's to win football games and obviously graduate from an academic standpoint. And there have been a lot of things, Mike, that I've said no to, that either people that wanted to come in and showcase something or something that we were going to do in-house to bring attention to this program, that I said no, I think we're getting too far away from what's important, and that's having a great spring practice or great summer camp or great training camp or whatever it may be, and getting better as a football team. So I think a lot of that is knowing the personality of your team and what they need and what they can handle and things like that as well. So certainly we're proud of everything that we're doing and we want to showcase that, but we don't want to do anything that's going to be a detriment to us being the best football team that we can be year in, year out too. Good. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.